So in the previous two videos, I've said what is net zero. I've also talked about the different scopes behind net zero. This video is going to cover how to put a basic plan together. Okay, so you know what your scope 1 and 2 and 3 are in principle, but what are they actually and how do you manage it? Well, you're trying to decarbonise. So the first thing to do is to understand what your existing footprint is, get as much data as you can about your fuel consumption from vehicles, from buildings. That will help you to understand the scope 1 and 2. You might have that from another energy audit or another report that you've used before. So that will give you a good point in time, or maybe some meter readings from gas and electricity meters and so on, and some fuel reports from expenses. So that will give you scope 1 and 2. Scope 3 is difficult to quantify, and you may have to make some best guesses on that. A sensible first approach for a beginner would be to look at your purchase ledger and focus your efforts for decarbonisation on the areas, the suppliers that you spend the most money with, because those are likely to have the most carbon attached to them. Don't go for the little tiny elements. So put some information together. That will help you to build an understanding of what your scope for decarbonisation is. Excuse the use of the word too much there. Now what you need to do is create some sort of plan. My recommendation is that you create a basic framework that lists all of the possible projects that you could pursue for decarbonisation. So installing electric vehicle charging points, providing vegan food in the staff canteen, installing solar panels, all these kind of measures, and list them down and try and meet some basic criteria for these. Obviously cost and certainly carbon have got to be in there. You might want to include a degree of confidence that the project's going to happen, and you might want to include a timing for that project, and if that project is going to persist and for how long. So put together that basic framework. What that framework will allow you to do is compare and contrast and see which ones might give you the best bang for your buck, which ones might give you the most carbon reductions for money, which ones might be most achievable and most impactful. What we do at Greener Energy Futures is we put together a dynamic plan that shifts with things like the decarbonisation of the grid, that assesses risk in more ways and that understands the interplay of different projects. So I hope that's been helpful. So that's a view on what net zero is, breaking it down to its elements and putting together a basic plan.